Jordan, welcome to Real Vision. It's a pleasure to have you here to talk about DeFi, Vespers, and your roadmap going forward. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Ash.
So Jordan, let's talk a little bit about your background. You have a fascinating background in bioinformatics and in the sciences. Tell us a little bit about what you did before you came into the blockchain space.
Yeah, and I think that that's what people probably don't know about me. It's that really, I am a science geek. My passion growing up was always science. I was somebody who wanted to know more about chemistry, understanding living organisms, and really the mechanics of life. And I always saw myself going into science, and I was one of those weird people in college that loved organic chemistry. Everything about it made sense to me. I could visualize it, and I loved just understanding the processes and the synthesis and just knowing why our bodies tick. And so really this is what I studied. And at some point when I was in college, I started to understand, hey, I'm good on computers. That was probably the biggest thing. But then also, in order for science to really move forward, it really should be done more on computers. And it needs to be for a couple of really basic reasons. One, we can start to have more efficiency. So there's efficiency in the sense that you can do a lot more computer simulations faster. So something that could take you months or years to do, you can do 100 computer simulations in a matter of hours. And that is super important from a cost savings as well. And so I started to find myself gravitating more towards computational biology. And I think that what really kind of made this make even more sense was when I started to look at drug discovery. And so drug discovery, for people who are unaware, is super costly and takes many, many years. So historically, drugs cost about $1 billion to bring to market, and also about 15 years to bring to market. And coronavirus has actually showed us that we can do this much faster. So within a matter of hours after having the virus sequenced, a lot of the drug companies were able to come up with the drug targets. And so this is something before, with how science was done for a very long time, we would not be able to do. We would be still probably months, maybe even years from having a vaccine. And so I started to find myself heading down the path of bioinformatics. And I started grad school at Georgetown. And, I did the usual grad school stuff. I published papers, wrote some software, and I was going down the path of academia until 2012. When I was assigned, it was an optional reading assignment while I was in an algorithms course, and it was a Satoshi white paper. Professor that assigned it was also my PhD advisor. I'm not sure if he regrets assigning it now, but anyways, I read it. I don't think when I first read it, it made complete sense to me. I went back, reread it, and I may have become obsessed at that point with what it was. And I don't think I was convinced at this time that we could be doing this with money. But I started doing everything I could on the side to better understand the technology. And so within biology, there are so many examples of small world networks. So we see protein small world networks, gene small world networks, as well as metabolome. And that's where my focus was really on the metabolomics. And so I started applying all of my knowledge with small world networks to the Bitcoin network. And analyzing it from more of a network perspective, looking at hubs. And this is where I became truly fascinated with it, and looking at just the transaction flow, looking for hubs, looking at different mixers and whatnot. And then I also started thinking about how we could start applying this to more of the medical field. And I was fascinated with the concept of the enhanced data sharing with the blockchain, because I was in more of the biomedical world. I was very familiar with the struggles we were having with electronic health records and trying to replace the legacy paper medical records. So started to think about how the blockchain could be used potentially with medical records. And I think that this is where I really started to realize that I could be doing more than just the basic science stuff. Even went as far as presenting the Satoshi white paper as a journal club paper.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating, this almost gradual transition from the world of life sciences into medical records and ultimately into DeFi. I won't pretend to understand, biochemistry, but I have to ask, what were some of the analogies or metaphors that you saw? Because you have this incredibly unique background here in the DeFi, in the blockchain space. How did the sort of mental models, the structures that you'd come to understand in metabolomics and in other sciences apply to your understanding of the Satoshi white paper and then later to the DeFi ecosystem?
It was really looking at it from the network perspective. And there's even some of the algorithms that I was working on that I could take and translate to the Bitcoin network, and really trying to identify patterns within the Bitcoin network. So this is how I started to first approach blockchain, is thinking of it from more of that data perspective, that network perspective. And this is what led me to realizing that, hey, don't be an idiot. There's something more out there. This is going to be big. And I met Perry Boring around this time. She had just started the Chamber of Digital Commerce. I started helping out. We were both living in DC. Two of probably the only women at the time who were interested in Bitcoin and blockchain. And I just was doing everything I could at the time to absorb the space. And this is how I met Matt Rozak.
So what was the key insight that you had, or series of insights that you had, that allowed you to see that this was going to be, as you said, very big? What were the network sort of markers or protocols or metaphors that you saw from your time studying basically bio networks?
I think that it was really more of that, as I said, the enhanced data sharing, and seeing that you can be doing something better, and understanding the technology behind blockchain, and it was just a much better system than we had seen. I didn't have a financial background at the time, but I understood enough on just the technology side that I realized, and I grew up with finance people in my family, so I had at least some background that this was going to be game-changing from the technology side, and enough of an understanding that it was going to change things on the financial side as well.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.